Bismillah. Hello, wherever you are. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. 20 minutes past 8 o'clock in the United Kingdom. That's 20 minutes past 10 o'clock in Uganda. Should be sometime in the afternoon in the United States of America, which I couldn't connect to very quickly to remind myself of the exact time. Welcome to Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. And tonight, inshallah, we shall be exploring a very difficult, sad story, and it is about loneliness. I think 3.5 million people in the United Kingdom have said or reported that they feel lonely. And the interesting thing or the worrying thing is that being lonely does not necessarily come from being alone. You can be with someone and still be lonely. Many families now, especially with technology, have become more and more lonely because everyone gets onto their phone. They go into that virtual world. People are in the same house and they are still unable to communicate or even, have a conversation. And that, I think, really speaks volumes just in terms of where we are at. A senior United States health expert has equated loneliness after actually suggesting that there is an epidemic of loneliness, suggesting that being lonely is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. I want you to just think about that for a minute. Umuntu yena who is going to go and smoke 15 cigarettes, the impact is huge a day. And we know what the implications of that would be. But this is now being equated to a person who is lonely. Loneliness is brought by so many things. And if we are saying that being alone does not necessarily mean you are lonely, it almost beggars that we should go into a definition of what loneliness is. Loneliness is a sense of emptiness, of being alone, not necessarily by being alone, because there is being alone in a particular situation, in a particular matter, probably imagining that your spouse, your husband, your wife, your brother, your sister does not share in the circumstances that you are undergoing at that particular moment in time. As a result of that, you feel left out, you feel left to yourself. It would be very interesting, especially to hear from young people, just in terms of why they would feel lonely. And there are different reasons that push people into feeling lonely. It might be an emptiness. You had a spouse and they died. Quite often, you won't be surprised to see that some people, when they've been married for long, when one of the partners, one of the spouse, one of the couple dies, the other almost follows very soon, because there is a sense of emptiness that arises, that comes out of the person that you have been used to much of your life suddenly going away. And even in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought aspects, and the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us ways and means in which excuse me, ways and means in which we can deal with situations of loneliness. And the beauty of Islam is how, through our own Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah has brought it to bear on us. He has brought it straight into our situations, that we come face to face with the realities of loneliness and then even find solutions, but from within religion. The Prophet ﷺ was befallen by a situation during the Meccan period. The first 13 years of Islam were very, very difficult years. A lack of acceptance, a struggle to recruit, adherents or people that would follow and come to Islam and understand and appreciate Islam. Those first few years were very difficult. In the second and third year of Islam in Mecca, Muslims are forced to go into a valley because of the social boycott that was introduced. It was a lockdown of sorts. Muslims were not supposed to be traded with. They could not buy from or be bought from, and it became a very difficult situation. During these 2.5 years that actually, Muslims had to endure this very difficult situation, the Prophet ﷺ lost his beloved wife, Khadija radiallahu anha. And this was a very, very big setback. But as if that was not enough, within a very short period following up on the death of Khadija, his uncle Abu Talib, who had looked after him, who had protected him against, the Meccan pagans and so on, also passed on. It was an almost unbearable situation that while he had, followers, Muslims, converts that had come along, the emptiness that Khadija left in his life, the emptiness that Abu Talib left in his life was so much to bear. The Prophet was really in a difficult situation. Depression probably would be a bit extreme, but it was probably nearing that just in terms of what he was going through. But he was very lonely despite not being alone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings two situations that are interesting probably in tonight's conversation, that we could probably explore these in our conversation tonight. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes the Prophet or invites the Prophet sallallahu to heaven in the journey, in the famous journey that has become to be known as Al-Isra wal-Mi'raj. In the first instance, the Prophet sallallahu travels with this very fast flying stallion, sort of a unicorn of a horse that he uses to get from Mecca, takes him to Masjid al-Aqsa in Jerusalem, where he leads all the previous prophets in Salah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes him to heaven. Of course, now, because he hadn't been given the Salah yet, how did he lead them into prayer? He was still able to pray, but not the prayer in the format that we have it after he had received it from heaven. So he goes to Jerusalem where he gets that chance to lead them in prayer, and then he's taken to heaven where again now he starts meeting some of them individually, meets them individually in the first heaven, in the second heaven, in the third heaven. It was quite a journey. And the Prophet ﷺ, his journey culminates in being granted or given a salah, the Khamsa Salawat, which started with 50, then came to 40, then 30, then 20, until we got to 5. And Musa alayhi salam had been the one who was telling Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam each time he had received the set of prayers, as he was going down to say, I've received the message and I'm going, and Musa is asking, how many prayers were you given? He says 50. He says, your people can never manage 50. Go back to your Allah and ask for him to reduce. The reduction went until it was 5 prayers. And Musa alayhi salam still said to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, go and ask Allah for another decrease because your people will struggle with that. Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was shy because he couldn't feel he had gone so many times back and forth. He felt ashamed to go back and ask. But you can see how much of a struggle we have had with our 5 prayers as they are. Probably it would have been left to 1, but Allahu A'lam. Anyway, we ended up with 5 prayers. The Prophet ﷺ comes back from that journey, a journey that also took him to heaven and hellfire. He was shown, got to see the angels in heaven, got to see paradise and what was there, got to see hellfire and what was there, and then returns back. But around the same time as well, he receives Surah Yusuf, which was also talking about patience. In times of difficulty, being able to persevere, to stick in there. Yusuf alayhi salam he was only 12 years old, about 12 years old, when he was taken by his brothers, jealous of him being, the favorites before the dad, him and his younger brother, Benjamin, being the favorites before their dad, Yaqub. They conspire now to kill Yusuf, take him away so that they could become the favorites before their father's eyes. And of course, it took 40 years for Yusuf, because of a dream that he had seen with the sun and the moon prostrating to him and the 11 stars. And it took 40 years before his dream came to pass. This was about patience, and it was the only surah that has been revealed in the Quran, sort of as in a single form, and then one surah that actually almost has one story nearly up to the very end. No interruptions, just the flow of the story from start to the very end. This for the Prophet ﷺ was quite reassuring. And why am I bringing this? In the context of where we are, you realize that probably ogenda muka out kinds of element ya loneliness. The Prophet ﷺ was taken out and it was out of this world as well and back. But also probably having someone that might be able to comfort you. It might just come in quite handy. It might help to deal with situations of loneliness. Many things send people into loneliness. Quite often, a sense of not being understood can be a contributing factor to loneliness. Ibra there in the studios, if you're ready, I'll just wait to see just the one clip, the first link. Once we have that, I think that would get us into a talking point, inshallah, once you're ready. Catherine Sadi, I've just seen you've just joined us. Thank you very much and welcome to the program. Yep. Okay. Yes, Ibra, we are ready for the clip. And once the clip is done, then inshallah, we shall open the conversation and hear our stories. It's quite interesting that sometimes you can think you have a burden that is sitting on you until you listen to somebody else. And then sometimes you find that they found ways of dealing with it, and that might be a solution for you. Or maybe you might actually even advise the other person that probably that's not the best way to go about it. That's why we are having the conversation tonight. The program is Come. Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, and we're talking tonight about loneliness. Social media now seems to be at the heart of this. Ibra, we are ready for your clip, please. Hello, Ibra. I can see the clip is on. Hello, Ibra, are you there? Well, while we wait for the clip to start playing, inshallah, shortly. Well, we were saying that one of the things that actually that have led to situations of loneliness is, well, okay, looks like it has been playing and it was stuck. So just put it to the very beginning, please. And I couldn't hear any sound as well. So I don't know whether it was because it hadn't started, but we've lost 23 seconds in there. Let's just play it from the very beginning, please. All right. Oh, it's off. All right. Well, if you've just joined us, we're just doing an introduction into, well, loneliness and the sense of loneliness, the kind of things that lead people to feel lonely. And we are saying that it does not necessarily mean that being lonely means you are alone. There are situations even where you might have people around you, but then those people don't serve the purposes that actually would constitute or take you away from loneliness. And I think it would be interesting just to hear our situations. Imagine a situation where, for example, you've just arrived in this country. Ibra, when you're ready, I'll just see the clip and then I'll stop talking and open the microphone to our people. Neil Fakasuja, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome to the conversation. I've just seen you come in. Yeah, and imagine this situation. You've just arrived in this country, Ogenzo Tomede Chiyumba, and you start the immigration process or the asylum process. This is one of the most demeaning situations that anyone can find themselves in. First of all, you have to contend with the situation. All right, I think the clip is here. You can start with that and then we'll open up into the conversation. Oh, it's disappeared. Well, I'm just saying, I was saying that in the situation of asylum, for example, you arrive in this country, Ovude, Uganda. Let's just paint the different pictures. You are working over the Greenland Bank or Demo Bank. You're working in a bank, a suit, your tie, you have your car, you have this basic life. Or you day waka, or na uchibuga bakubengato, or na maid at home. You'll have a scary kugeti when you have just arrived back home. A combination of all, these things now made life for you. And then you suddenly want to improve your life, you go for greener pastures, and then you end up here. Nojano Tandika asylum process. A very difficult process by any means. So you enter into the asylum process. First of all, you lose Ubuntu. You lose what makes you the person that you are. You go for food, you go. There are these things that you are simply not used to. Suddenly you find yourself in that situation. Ozewa solicitor, beginning to write the story. You go through refusal probably. Sometimes you have to go through counseling depending on where you have been. A very difficult, process, which if you are lucky, you end up getting granted, your asylum is granted, and therefore, alhamdulillah, you start picking up the pieces of your life. In other cases, many cases for many people, it takes forever. And then by the time they respond, the response is negative. These, beyond just making you depressed, will and can actually make you feel very lonely. In fact, before that loneliness that comes with the refusal, the build up to that, you come here, for example, you get granted the asylum accommodation away from the people that you're used to. If you're not in London, Swansea, Cardiff, North Wales or Scotland, you know no one from your country. Ati eyo wajja okubira nifa Kassim n'ogaa nzija inshallah Catherine munnaye, I'm making my way to UK, bismillah. And then you get here, the next thing is they throw you, they disperse you to Cornwall, and then you're there in a place where you become a tourist attraction for many people because you are probably the first Black they are seeing in that area. And you become the talk of the area. I want you to picture that because for some of the people probably being in this conversation, you have gone through that process and you know how lonely that can be. How did you cope? How did you manage to sort of while away the time while waiting? There are people who are not lucky to have people here that probably they could run to or talk to. You just manage to make it here, you come in, and that's it. You have to start the struggle by yourself. How did you manage? I'm just painting pictures just to sort of see. Imagine a situation where you are in an abusive relationship. It's not violent, but it's abusive psychologically, for example. You are in a home and you're unhappy. You're sharing a house, you just come back home. You both sit there and what will it again? That loneliness. You just get into bed and just fold yourself. Does that loneliness now get to a point where you can no longer stand it and it just bursts out? And by bursting out, the next thing you do is you just say, it's over, and you walk away. Or would you find a solution? Do you create a situation where probably you go for a holiday, like the Prophet ﷺ was taken to heaven for that particular journey, which really transformed one. We received Salah, which was a very important component of our religion, but it was also lifting him away from this environment where he had, gone through a lot of this and exposing him to a new environment. Could it be that loneliness could be fought by just a change of location? Come, let's talk with me, Kassim Kayira. It's 39 minutes past 8 o'clock in the United Kingdom, and the program is Come, Let's Talk with me, and we are talking about loneliness. Why not just open the microphones to you and get to hear your particular experiences? All I've just been doing is painting pictures, and then probably be just much more practical to hear from you in terms of your experiences, what you've been through, what you've gone through, and how you managed to cope. Whether there has been a time when you've actually felt lonely. And Amina, Amber, I come to you first with my sincere apologies. We are talking about dealing with loneliness. Have you at any one point felt lonely?
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. Yeah, basically, I'm going to obviously focus on the loneliness, which is the feeling, and alone, which I think I've found out to be the being, like being alone. So in terms of loneliness, yeah, obviously for me, moving from my country, which was Uganda, which was my home, the place where I knew, coming here, like everything you've touched on, like coming to new world, new environment, and going through all those processes of like paper process and basically learning again. It's like learning how to start walking, like it's like being a child again. So in some areas it was really lonely. And to me, I remember, obviously, I also ended up away from London. When I was in the process of the papers, I ended up in a place called like Portsmouth, very far.
Portsmouth, okay, yeah.
And I was the only person there. I was very young, I was very naive, and I was the only Ugandan there. Wow. So basically, I was with people from West Africa, different parts of Africa, and again, people from Iraq and different areas. So that feeling of loneliness, basically, the only thing I can say about it really is that it can push you to basically do something which you wasn't prepared to do. Like it will come into your life. That feeling, it will come into your life, and then it will start commanding you. It will start instructing you on what to do. Like it will tell you, start smoking, start drinking, start going out every day, clubbing, or it will pull you onto things like a religion. It will ground you onto that, whereby you can decide whenever you are alone in that little room they give you, the government gives you, they want you to call home, but obviously it's not home because it's lonely. Yeah. So when you're there, you can choose to basically, if you're very lucky, then Allah will support you, will guide you onto just spending time like reading Quran and stuff, things which can help your spirit. Your spirit. But again, loneliness could lead you into like bad things like smoking or even other areas. Right. But yeah, the only bad thing which I saw, it was like, because where I come from in Uganda, obviously, we are used to eating in a group as a big family of 20, 30, you eat in a group. But once you are in a new environment, then you're eating alone. Obviously, if you eat alone, being that you come from a big family, that food is not gonna taste good. Yeah. So the weakness, the challenge I faced in this country was food. I just basically just started starving myself because the food wasn't tasting the same because I was away from the people. So truly that was the only thing. And later on, then I started getting ulcers. So in other words, I became physically unwell because of loneliness. That's the only thing I can say, I think. Thank you.
So how did you manage to cope with that?
With which one?
With the loneliness. I mean, given these circumstances that you found yourself in, and the sort of difficult, the dilemma that you were in. How did you manage? How did you manage to cope?
Okay, how I managed, obviously, like as I said that we were put in an area, like in an apartment, which had like 8 rooms, and then there would be people from other areas of the world. So you were forced to look at one of those, out of those 8 people, you choose one and say, okay, this one will be my friend. So you basically bring yourself very close to that person. And that will mean that if that person goes to church, yes, you were Muslim, but you will go to church because you don't want to spend Sunday alone in that apartment because your friend is going to church. So you go to church and be there. It doesn't mean that you're gonna change your religion, no. But you're gonna go there because you don't want to stay alone. You want to stay close to your friend. So basically, it's just forcing yourself to be friends with the people who are there. And again, yeah, even religion helps a bit. Like our religion, you go back the time for prayer, then you pray. Then that, because truly, if you look at loneliness, it's to do with the inside. It's the spirit, the spiritual feeling. Once you're not satisfied, you're lonely. You might have all the monies. It might not exactly mean that you're in a very sad situation to feel lonely. You might be maybe a celebrity. People would see as a celebrity. You might have all this money, but to you, inside you, your spirit is not really, you're not so there. You're not content.
There's an emptiness. Yes, there is an emptiness of sorts that you have to deal with.
Exactly. Yeah. There is that emptiness. It's like you yourself, you might feel hungry, but then I offer you a certain food and then you eat and eat. You might come back to me and say, actually, I've eaten so much, but I don't feel satisfied. When you go to our SHAWWAL, they might say, oh, when your sugars drop, there is a type of the day, if we've starved ourselves, you will be very hungry. Then it will mean that you're supposed to eat something sweet first before you can even eat a big plate of food.
Yeah.
So even if you eat that big plate of food, you haven't eaten that little sugary something, you won't feel like you've eaten anything. So truly that loneliness.
I'm trying to dig a little bit just to see now on the, how would it get portrayed? How would the loneliness get portrayed? You know, like sometimes you are lonely and then that loneliness makes you cry. You just feel that, and one of the ways of expressing that is through crying. What sort of form or shape did your loneliness take?
Yes, crying is the first thing, isn't it? Crying is the first.
It's a natural
it's
one.
the first reaction, yes, because obviously, why are you crying? You're crying because you miss the family, you knew, you miss your family, you miss somebody.
Yeah.
You miss somebody. So crying would be the first thing. You might decide to cry each and every morning you wake up, or you might decide to cry to yourself to sleep. So anyway, to me is going close to those people, but again, to friends from other parts of the world. But again, they used to hold things like parties and stuff. So to them, they would say that, oh, you know what, these parties help us get rid of this stress and stuff. But again, that's when I learned that, oh, I like going out and look at maybe the lakes, because people who know Portsmouth, there's the water body thing. Is it the ocean? Yeah. So basically looking at that, and then we started traveling like with the hovercraft, and me being traveling on the water, I found that was a remedy. So that's the way I was kind of fighting it. Thank you so much.
No, thank you very much, Amina. Fantastic. If you've just joined us, like Aisha Nakaiwa has just done, the program is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira, and we are talking loneliness. Amina has just shared a personal story about how she coped, especially with the asylum process. There's just that sort of emptiness that even if you were to go out, you know, like in party form, you go out, you hang out with people, you laugh, but then once you come back to your room, reality sets back in. The loneliness is sort of prolonged. It's there. It's sort of waiting for you. You can go out a little bit, get excited, you know, shout with people. I've seen like celebrities, people that I've worked with in the media. Someone gets on telly, they are full of smiles. They get off the screen, go into the changing room, and they are literally having their hands in their faces in their palms, crying. And you get to them, and you know, it's the kind of picture that we display in public is totally different to what someone is having to put up with. Someone is probably smiling on the screen and they have to go home with a divorce process that is underway, and they have to go through all that trauma that, you know, that takes shape. It's interesting, you know, what the human mind, what the human body can take. The sort of loneliness, you know, will take different shapes Some people now will start eating a lot. You get into a sort of an eating disorder as a way, as a coping mechanism. Sheikh Nasakab, I've just seen you also joining us from the Netherlands. Welcome very much. Good to have you into the conversation. Hopefully, we should be able to hear from you. When you talk about especially Africans, Alhamdulillah, for some reason, as Africans or Blacks for that matter, because we come up in big communities, big societies, you grow up in a home, you are 13, you are 15, even to imagine that there is a sense of loneliness, it is difficult to come by. But even in those situations, imagine you've been taken to boarding school. It's your first time you're getting into boarding school. You've gone with your suitcase, metal suitcase, with your swa in there. There are teasers that are waiting to tease you, once your parents have walked away. There is that image of parents or whoever guardian that has taken you, leaving and then leaving you in the hands of people that you don't know how to deal with. You don't know how you're going to contend with that situation. A very painful experience by any standards. That picture, that you see your parent, your guardian walking away, and then you beginning that life alone in boarding school. I'm sure many of you will have had a time where you've had to go through that. It is one that you might not want to wish even on your worst enemies. That's loneliness that we are discussing. You might not necessarily be alone, but loneliness. I'll come to Nsubuga. Nsubuga, has Nsubuga disappeared, subhanAllah. He was here just 1 minute and then he's disappeared. Yes, I'll go to Catherine. Hi, Catherine. Good evening. Hello, Catherine. Excuse me.
Good evening.
Nyabo, welcome. How are you today?
I'm fine. I don't know whether you've been on and I've missed most programs.
Yes.
But
yes.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. Good to have you.
I'd like to talk about two incidents.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one happened to me. My husband decided to go back home in the process of us relocating back to Uganda.
Yes.
In 2009. And he went for 2 years.
Was that abrupt, or had you sort of gone through, have you spoken about it? So have you agreed about it?
Yes, we had, and we had planned it.
All right.
And he went to start the process of us relocating.
Mm-hmm.
And those 2 years he was back in Uganda to be in the business that he had already started with his relatives.
Mm.
The first 3 months were good because that's what we used to do. I could go for 6 weeks. He used to go, he's self-employed. He could go for 3 months, 6 months. But this time he was saying, 2 years will be setting the ground.
Mm.
So the 3 months elapsed. We went into 6 months. And communication, as he was busy, doing whatever he was doing,
yeah.
Communication wasn't that as great.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a two-bedroom flat, and we had a spare room in the house. It was empty. And the first 3 months I was okay because that's what we were used to before. But when he went into the 4th and 5th month, I started hearing the clock ticking, going ching, ching, ching. And it was like I go to work, I'm fine. I come back home.
Yes.
4 months, 5 months, the clock just really took me to a dark place.
Mm-hmm.
I realized I'm on my own.
Yeah.
I can call him. Sometimes he's busy, sometimes he's not, but he's not here.
Now, Catherine, you are sort of speaking to me. It's like you are in Luganda, I would say, into, because it was not necessarily about relocation, but we had agreed. I went to Uganda and was working from there. I went to establish, our farm and stuff. And when you leave, you know, the excitement is we shall be able to communicate all the time until you get on the ground. And the time difference, first of all, has an impact, because if it's winter time, you're 3 hours, you know, ahead in Uganda, 3 hours behind here. So by the time you get into 3 hours here, the other person is already 3 hours ahead. You try to call and probably the network is not good where the person is. They are not, you know, probably in a position to speak. And here you are sort of wanting to speak there and then. It is something that leaves you, you know, by the time you just are unable to speak, immediately there is a way that it hits you. Go ahead. I just felt like you are speaking to me because I'm like your husband, the other side. I was sort of imagining putting myself in that position.
So, and I'm a very sensitive person. He's more flexible in his way of thinking, very objective. Mm-hmm. So if he doesn't get hold of me, it's okay. But for me, if I don't get of him, I go into a madness.
Imagining things.
Yeah, and he has to bring me back. And then I think at 8 months, I realized that 2 years I may not be able to accommodate the situation.
Yes.
So it's not something I planned to do, but it manifested itself in what I was wearing. Yeah. I started wearing black without my realization. It was other people telling me, what happened to you? You like bright colors. What has happened? You started wearing black. I started losing weight, but I was focused at work. I was the best productive person I was a manager and I was productive. That was not an issue. My work was not affected. But my appearance, the way I looked, the way I dressed was different. Mm-hmm. It was the impact of him not being around. And also realizing that maybe I was so invested in the relationship, I wasn't focusing outside of a relationship. I decided to take off all the clocks in the house. I took the batteries out. I started going to the swimming pool, going to the gym. And the spare room I had, I put in a tenant so that I have somebody I can talk to. Right. So I had to find solutions within myself, but that missing of him is still impacted on me, that I was alone. Yeah. I wasn't me. And
so
then
beyond the loss of weight, were there other manifestations, say like in your eating habits? Were you crying like Amina was telling us about situations where you go into a room and for some reason and out of the blue, you just find yourself crying because you are missing someone so desperately?
I think at 4 or 5 months, I did cry. And then I started talking to myself to bring myself back. I stopped crying. I did cry for 2 months. And then I said, I need to stop this. I need to find a solution. Take the clocks out, get a client, get a tenant, do social activities, try to, get him out of your system, but he's not getting out because you're still communicating with him whatever way it is. But I remember that one time I went into the shopping mall. It was full, but I was alone. I still felt alone despite the shopping mall being full.
Yeah.
Yeah, so life became a bit of a meaningless situation. But from that experience, the only other thing I can say that towards 18 months, I think, he was home. My dad called him and said to him, what are you doing to my daughter? But although my dad had never spoke to him what I was going through, but he called him and said, this is not good enough for me, for my daughter. My daughter cannot be in England and you're here 2 years on. What are you doing? What's your plan? What are your plans? So despite him explaining to my dad, this is what we plan and all that, he said, no, I'm not happy. So he looked at what he was doing and it wasn't going that great.
So are you telling me, Catherine, that for the 18 months, he was there and he hadn't come back? Because they say you have gone to establish, but then probably 3 months in, you sort of fly back and, check on you and then go back. It was 18 months of away. It was you not.
It was 2 years away, completely 2 years.
Wow.
But I did go and see him three times. But those were like going for a month because I'm employed.
Yes.
Yeah, I would go for my annual leave and all that.
That's the maximum you would have. And how would it feel? Did it help your relationship in some ways? Because sometimes we stick around people so long that sometimes that awareness could help to rekindle things.
For me, it was the loneliness in England. It wasn't the relationship being affected.
Yes, no, I understand the loneliness, but once the loneliness comes into the picture, because when you meet, is it like you are now dating all over again? It's two years. It's quite some time.
It was rejuvenating meeting him. It was nice, but it wasn't as tight because he was busy doing the business.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't see him as much as I wanted, but I enjoyed the moments we had.
Right.
Yeah, but all I can say that my dad had to tell him off.
Thank you, Daddy. I think that helps. So did he get on the next plane to come back, or did you have to fly in then?
No, he sat down with him at 18 months and told him, whatever you planned, is it going anywhere? You need to go and evaluate the situation. Because if it's not going anywhere, you're giving my daughter pain. But I had never spoken to my dad about the issues.
Parents can feel, parents would feel somehow.
Yeah. The other story I have to say is my brother. My brother came here to do his master's and he was in Leeds. And he used to call me like if I'm busy, I'm not able to answer the phone. He would leave a bad message complaining, why you're busy, I can't talk to you. You know, I've come from Africa, all he would leave just a bad message because he couldn't get hold of me. And then he used to go out like onto the street and, like back home, you get out of your house, you see people and they say, hello, hello, hello. And then he'll get out of the street and there'll be nobody. He'll be in the uni and he has maybe one or two friends.
Yeah.
The food, it took time for him to adjust to the food. And then he would maybe come down to London maybe once in 3 months. And one day he sat down with me, he said, Catherine, how do you do it? This place is not normal. How do you do it? You get out of your house, nobody says anything. So once he done his master's, he was offered the job. He said, no, this is not the place for me. It's too lonely.
Yeah.
He packed up and went.
Now, understandably, and it's very, very understandable by any standards. I mean, you would understand. And actually, in this country, you come in here, you see a person, especially the elderly. The elderly are very, very lonely. Their children have grown up, left, probably moved even out of the country. They're down in Australia or New Zealand or Canada or the United States. The old lady comes in and she's on the bus, and some lady was telling me actually how they spend an entire day on the bus, sort of changing, because they've got is it the freedom passes, so they don't pay for the bus, and staying on the bus for the whole day serves two purposes. Because the gas and electrics had sort of gone up, by staying in the bus, because the bus has heating on, they save on their own heating in their own home, so that by the time they go back in the evening, they have saved a bit of energy. But also they get to see people. You just sit next to an old woman and you just see how she starts talking non-stop. They're trying to bring in a conversation because she has no one else to speak to. The level of loneliness sort of pushes them out of the home to sort of come out and listen and see people. And to imagine your brother now coming from an environment where everybody will be saying, wasuzote, without even knowing the person.
Boss, mzee.
Chichi boss, and that in itself is kind of very reassuring.
I also want to say one thing, that I've been with my tenant for the last 12 years.
The tenant is still there?
Yeah, she's still there.
Oh,
and
okay.
Yeah, and for us, it has been a blessing because when I go home, she's around. When he goes home, she's around. So you don't feel that loneliness, the house is empty.
Yeah.
You can hear somebody shuffling around, maybe not talking to you, but shuffling around, getting in and out. And yeah, but loneliness in England can be a
It's
pain.
real.
And also
Yes.
when I work in social care, I always tell people, you may not have a relationship with the opposite sex, but find a companion. As we age as well, it's not about, relationship and all that. Have a companion, somebody you can talk to.
Yes. Fantastic, Catherine. That's fantastic to hear from you. Thank you very, very much. I'm sure there are lessons to take there from this kind of submission. And many of us, end up in those situations, sometimes, well, unwittingly or unwillingly, because circumstances simply push us into situations where we find ourselves in that. And it is sad that sometimes you would have imagined that you wouldn't find oneself in that situation, but then you end up finding yourself in that situation. Now, it's even sad when you have people in the house, and despite the fact that you have people around you, you still feel lonely. There's that sort of emptiness that, goes on and on and on. Abubakar Nsubu Gasevo, you had come in earlier, and then somehow you dropped off. I'm coming to you because we've heard from two women now, and sometimes it is felt like men do get lonely. Actually, Catherine was talking about her own brother and how he struggled while at university. In fact, when I spoke about organizing this topic, I was surprised. The following day after last Tuesday, no, on Thursday last week, Jeremy Vine on BBC Radio 2 does this same story. And I was laughing, thinking, how did I say we are going to do this topic and then someone just brings it up? Now, here came on a girl from university. She was in York, at York University. She spoke of how lonely she was, despite, like she was trying to hang out with some of the groups, and other people, they're going to meet up. People come 3, people come 4, and she just comes alone. And she was struggling to find, space. Going back home, and she was really, really struggling. So I don't know whether she was poor at making friends, but every effort she made as to approach people and so on actually didn't work. So she ended up not only just being alone, but also lonely. But even in situations where she went to people, it still felt lonely because she would be the odd one not drinking. Everyone else is drinking. She's forced to start drinking to start looking social. It didn't still work. The level of loneliness was just unbelievable. She was saying she was actually worried that she would stop speaking because of how long it took for her to even get someone to talk to. Abu Bakr, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So we are on loneliness.
Topic njiwulidde mbadde nenze mu kusaala ndowooza njiwune mbadde sigyeko naye ate neebula naye
tulabye ndabyogenze n'obulirayo ngenza okulaba ng'oddakomyewo naye ekiwubaalo kino weesanzeeko mu mbeera naddala mu mawanga gano wojjira obanga wayita mu asylum system obanga obadde n'awaka oluusi omukyala akola omwami akola ogenda okuwulira nga omutima gufa. Actually nze there are times I even feel it, nvuddewo ngenza okukola nempulira nga mpulira nfuuse so lonely mwattu nenkyusa nenvuga nenkoma nenzija awaka kanzigenda bye ku mukyala.
Naye nga bw'ogambye okiwandiise nti being alone and loneliness they're different.
Yes,
different gye twandirabyemu mpozi kubanga omuntu oyinza okuba nga you are not alone as such, kugamba oli mu nju mulimu abantu mulimu abaana kati ng'abaana bakulu be tulina naye olw'okuba babeera bize beefudde bize ku gadgets
social media
kati nkikula lonely okitegeera naye kati you're not alone, you are so many people in the house, even your wife, your kids and the grandchildren, but because of the modernity naye tuforces okubeera less loneliness mu system nti naawe kwenyine muzeeyi weesanga nga oli ku bino byeboogera bino ebyaba bloggers kugamba nawe nabo nebikutwala kugamba olwokuba bikusanyusaamu samu kugamba nabo bikujjako loneliness naye nga problem I think fenna weesanga ku stage buli stage gy'otuukako especially mu myaka weesanga nga loneliness ejja ate yeeyongera bweyongezi kubanga wabaawo factors ezijja nti kati oyinza okuba n'omukyalo oddewo naye emyaka 4 3 kwegamba
emboozi mwazimalayo
newajjawo oluusi nga naye ali ku sopusize ali ku byasima bino bidrama bye Uganda naawe n'obyeno ku kundizo kugamba loneliness nejjawo naye nga olina kwekwasa Allah ku solvinga solution yokka yojja bwekumalako loneliness.
Yes. No, actually, Allah, I think Amina did mention it, turning to God, no one to gaze God. But, you know, where that works, temporary. Allah, no, but there are times when relationship, it's personable. With Allah, yes, especially you understand the meanings. There's a way reflection here where for me, actually, I find that the last 10 years have been my best years with the Quran. Not necessarily because I didn't understand the language from before. Nayekati, you find that the way you relate your own life's experiences to what is the message. It actually makes sense. Quran
the situation eri current eriwo mu reality kubanga kati olabira ddala nga kibino kibaddewo
yes,
no, yeah.
Now kakati tukoze tutya kudiringa kwa especially ngeno issue gyogambye ku ya gadgets. How do we deal with that?
Naye kati kiti kya
gadgets awaka
eyo mbeera kati ezze kijja kuba kizibu nnyo kubanga yeeyongera bweyongeza solution yayo kwegamba kubeera abantu bazze ku tradition tulina okunyumya tulina okutuula wamu loneliness tugijjewo you get at least get an hour you spare some time n'ogamba nti at least banaine tuweemu kasawa akamu tutambuddeko mu paaka ng'eyo kwegamba ne tunyumyanyumyamu n'abaana n'abazzukulu yengeri yokka gye tujja closinga gap eyo naye nga kati gadgets zajja tezikyayinza kuddayo era loneliness ejja kweyongera naye nga gwe kennyini gwolina okuteekamu time table yo n'ogamba nti every week tuteeka okuteeka kuba Wednesday ba weekend tubanga tuneekwa 1 hour ya togetherness nga tuclosinga gap ya loneliness. That's the only solution.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Abubakar. Actually, what we do at home, a tradition we just tutula ku lusinia lwaffe bulungi nnyo akacere nalongo lwakoze kapirawo akalungi. We'll just be on the senior fenna abakyala ku senior yawe naffe abalenzi ku senior yaffe. And that actually is one of the best moments. And I was surprised that, the big boys of Amazoku Vawaka who have started their own lives, the one thing that they miss, they just want to sit kusini or and we just eat. It makes a huge difference, in terms of life. If there is dinner time, in most homes you get there, buli muntu ajja ne yejjulira n'alirako buli omu tamutamu bwe microwave there is that. But one way that actually happens is time y'okulya mwenna ne mba nti mugenda ku dining, phones are left in the sitting room mwenna ne mugenda ku dining. Time where you're dining is really not phone time. Phones gadgets ne zigende, but you can have a moment of having that conversation. The other thing is when you come from school abana bavudde ku ssomero, you just get to meet you start with having that conversation of how was your day, and it's amazing how much they can tell you. And now when the child just comes back, dad is busy, mom is busy, bedroom gadget, it breaks even that chain where they would have found a solution that dies because there is that break. Dad is busy, mom is busy. So definitely, I think as people, we should be trying to find ways and means by which we can deal with this. Catherine, you seem to have something burning over what we ought to do or what we are not doing in our homes. Did you have something?
I just wanted to say that it is nice to see that you've kept that tradition.
Yes.
And your children want to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes it's difficult to for the young generation to take on our old traditions.
Yes.
But also for me, just as I said, our relationship was not really affected by us being separate, but it's just the impact of it.
The impact of it.
Impact
Yes.
of that separation. And maybe also the other thing is there's so many people in England who are single. Most of my colleagues are single, and I always tell them that you need to find somebody of the opposite sex, but not a relationship, but a companionship.
Where do you draw the line? Kubanga aba opposites wano gaenti for companionship. Sikwe kuyitirawo n'oseerera?
Nedda. Mwami Kassim.
Yes.
Ndi mukazi goli musajja. Neno gye tukaddiira buli omu alina bw'akaddi.
Yes.
Nga biri tebyetaagisa.
Kizibu.
Nga bikwagamba obivaako n'otandika okunoonya omuntu ono nyinza okwogera naye ku ssaawa 9 ez'ekiro. Nga it is beyond.
Yes.
Beyond that. Eno gye tukaddiira, we need to find companionships.
I hear
Most
you.
people don't understand it. When njogera wa 30-year-old ne mugamba, have you got a companion? Agamba, are you mad? Or wa 40, are you mad? Naye tandika okugenda mu 50, 60, and you're alone in the house.
Then kitandika okuhitinga. But I'll tell you honestly, Catherine, if eno mu kisiraamu kizibuzibu. Eno mu kisiraamu kizibu kubanga omuntu abeera eno mu benzikiriza endala. You can sit there ne mbadi onakwata ka wine okwatireko wine ne mwogera ne kakyusa eriiso ne litandika okumasa eno situnywa mwenge tonywa tofuwa sigara ogenda okusanga naturally wangi
nedda tonywa mwenge naye okimanyi toyinza okuba nga oli mulwadde.
Omulwadde ki?
Ng'olina ebirwadde ebyo diabetes, high blood pressure.
Yes, naye nga kyeŋŋamba nti ku musiraamu take it from me oyinza okikiriza okigaana. Eno companionship gy'ogamba bwakuwooye edda ekiba kiwoowo 311.
Yes, naye kati katugambe omupoolo ye Kassim, omupoolo naye nga tewaliwo kigenda mu maaso tebeera companionship. Wampooye naye nga tewali kigenda mu maaso naye nga tuliwo ku mukwano.
Ate bw'oba bakuwooye ekiyitibwa ekiwoowo olwoba tokyaliyo kitagenda mu maaso.
Nga gwe tosobola kukola kintu kyonna.
Abubakar Nsuuga olinga alina kyagamba. Yingira mu conversation. Catherine Wani.
Mukyala atubuulire kikyategeeza by companionship.
Companionship eyinza okuba nga yakukwata mukono anti agambye ebirwadde byajja bipressure tokyalina kyosobola kukola. Nange ne nga nti ku musiraamu abasajja barabye gye bakutukira mu 7-8-9 ng'olaba n'abalongo basigaddewo. Bineene mu busiraamu ebyo companion kasitojja mu companionship obwedde ekiwo.
Kimanyi nti abasajja wano stress z'emirimu gye bakuba ne baba nga tebalina kye bakola.
Nga si kajanja ka mupya. Bw'abaawo omupya amanya nti laazima kati companionship ereetedde wennyini.
Akubayo myezi 3 n'addayo mu stress. Nga yeetaaga omuntu omubeererawo okwogera naye okumuzza obujja. Emotions.
Yes.
But not necessarily going that extra mile gye mwogera.
Extra mile yo mpulayiride mu busiraamu eno munnaye kyanjawulo nnyo.
Yogera n'abasajjawo nga balina stress y'omulimu, balina stress y'obukadde, balina ebirwadde.
Munnaye nzaakubuulira siri mu kuva mu katimba. Abubakar, OPPO, ndaba, let me bring you into the conversation. And the time is now 19 minutes past 9 o'clock. We are talking. OPPO, ndabyo badde mu nseko, you are seriously laughing about this. Welcome to the conversation.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's Jaden.
Wa alaikum salam. Now you come with all the different names all over. Now you confuse me. How are you?
I got a new gadget and I'm still working it out how to change my level.
Okay, welcome to our world.
Yeah, I was getting a translation about the last speaker's discussion of companionship and all that, and just to make it very clear that a male and a female cannot be just friends forever.
Catherine, I'm sure you're hearing loud and clear.
Because
yes, go ahead.
The male or the man will support you up to a time when your emotions take over. And then if you give him a small gap, he will be in. So that companionship does not work in Islam. It's
Catherine, I mean, I'm sure you can hear that loud and clear, because if I was alone in that, probably it would have come across in a different way. Okay, Jaden, yes, the companionship won't work. So how do we deal with loneliness then in a situation where probably commitment now wouldn't come in?
I think it's all down to the definition, because you talked about being alone and loneliness, because being alone, that is a situation, is a physical thing, which is there or is not there. But loneliness, this is a feeling. Yeah, it's a feeling, it's an emotional thing, the psychological aspect, which it's sometimes very difficult to describe, because it differs from individual to individual. Now, my experience was during the time of COVID, and COVID was not planned, but we also had our family plans in which Nalongo relocated to Uganda to complete projects and things like that. And then COVID came in, and 3 months extended to nearly 1 year.
Wow.
And I was left with the twins. But although I was not alone, I was feeling completely lonely, because even with work, I started working from home. Everything was online. I used to work for the council, and we had a big office. So it was like one big playground, talking here, chatting there, and banter. So there was all that companionship in the office. But when lockdown came, we started working from home. Nalongo's back in Uganda. The twins, they are married to their phones, as they do. And the gender difference, the connection between me, their dad, and them being females was not as close as the connection they've got with their mom. So I was always left to my own self with the cat and my work and things like that. So how I got over that, okay, going back, we also have the tradition of eating on the same sanya.
Yes.
And that is what brings us together at the end of the day. So
that's
we still maintain that tradition. But when Nalongo went, the cooking became problematic.
Was that because of choice of food? They want their chips and you want your...
Yes, they want their chips, and one of them is now into Chinese food, noodles and all that, and into nyama choma and ugali, sima, and kalo, things like that, and greens. So there was a conflict of interest when it came to eating time.
Choice of food, choice of what
food.
comes on the menu. Yes.
So to overcome that, I taught myself how to cook things which they enjoy. So I spent most of my time in the kitchen learning how to cook, in order to attract them to the dining table so that we can eat and talk together. So during that time, I learned a lot of cooking, and that helped the situation, because the time difference alone did not help. And you know our village there, the network sometimes is not very good. And to ask Nalongo to get out at midnight to take a call when the network is hit and miss.
To climb a tree so as to take a call.
Take a call. So that even extended the loneliness. And
yes.
to be honest, it's not a very good feeling. But if you can learn a new trade or a new hobby that can push you over that that period of
loneliness.
Of loneliness. But
yeah.
This one of saying companionship, you
I was saying to Catherine that, especially in Muslim circles, that's not going to happen. Yeah, that's you just come fully aware. All right, thank you very much, Jaden. Stay there. I think we'll come back. It's 25 minutes past 9 o'clock in the United Kingdom. We are talking loneliness. The program is Come. Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. We are live on 75W Radio. We are live on Ummah Connected on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Zoom, where the conversation is continuing here. Aisha Nakaiwa, I'll come to you and then I'll go to the Netherlands. Aisha, assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Good to have you on the show. How are you today?
I'm okay. How are you? I'm also in the Netherlands.
Now?
I'm also in the Netherlands.
You are also in the Netherlands. Oh, barakallah. Oh, that's quite interesting. Thank you very much for joining us. Well, probably doesn't get any lonely in the Netherlands with the water, with the boats, and with all people on bicycles.
Yeah.
Or does it?
But it depends, Sometimes people like us, in the asylum procedure, you're too lonely, you have no friends, you have no one, a lot of fear, a lot of many things. You have appointments, no working, nothing, So loneliness is too much. But in fact, when I was listening to you, I was thinking that people only have to pray for people in many asylum procedures in many countries, especially in the Western world, because many people are suffering with loneliness and they don't know what to do. And as Catherine has said, some people have resorted to drinking, this and that.
Yes.
But for me, for my case, I try to handle myself in a way that most of the time when I'm walking, I'm on adhikali, always praying, repeating the surahs, only that. That is how I try to, that's how I try to keep up myself. I have only one friend whom I always call and talk after talking to her about what is going on, what we can do. Life goes on like that, but it's not easy. Yeah, life is too long.
Actually, probably I'll try and check. I think I saw a book. There's someone who wrote a book, but if it hasn't been written, then I think it's about time that we write a book. Someone needs to interview people in an honest manner regarding their asylum process. I think there is a book that I saw to that effect. Probably either I'm dreaming it because I've just dealt with so much asylum cases and so on. But I almost remember like I've seen a book that has been written about the asylum. This asylum process has a way that it affects you really, really strongly. I mean, it's psychological in a lot of ways. I mean, I just painted the picture of someone who has been working. Many people in Uganda were not like that badly off. You are in a job. You had to sell your plot, for example, to travel abroad. You had to set up all of that. Now you live the kind of lifestyle that you're used to. You come here where in the asylum process, nobody knows you. Nobody knows who you used to be. The fact that you come here, actually I have a cousin brother who made me laugh. He said that I'll put it in Luganda because then it will make sense. He arrived in the UK after 2 days. He boarded the plane and went back to Uganda. Because he said, nagenda okutuuka nga siraba entuma because now he was used to sending. He would have people, like you remove shoes. There's even someone to remove his shoes. They take your shoes to the cobbler. you know, Auntie Mega is already bringing katogo there, you know, with later on they are bringing the salad with the toothpick there.
Yeah.
This kind of, suddenly you come here and nobody knows you, nobody even, you know, considers. Sometimes you're not even seen to be human. In some instances, you're treated in a manner that actually makes you feel so down, you know, so unnew. And this hits you psychologically immediately. You know, the thought of the fact that I used to be this and now I am this, that in itself, you know, has a way, it affects you really, really badly. You get into the small room, they've given you probably a sort of a bed seat, you know, through your asylum process. You are there sharing probably space with some people from all manners of cultures, probably dirty, and, you know, you are used to your evening, you know, bathing, sitting there and enjoying you. And all of this has to be thrown out.
Exactly, you know? Exactly. Me, myself.
And Catherine says here in the chat room that my brother-in-law said you acquire bad manners. Yes, go ahead, Aisha.
You can. Because me, for my case, in fact, I left the asylum place. It's deep in the village. So I stay in the, I rent a room, a small room in Amsterdam. Very lonely, very lonely. So most of the time when we are I'm talking to my friend, we always say, Aisha, this is not our life. This is not our life. We should always thank Allah for what He has given us and get satisfied with what we have made, and we give ourselves a limit to go back to Uganda, because this is not our life. This is not us, you know. She's lonely, living in Utrecht. I'm living in Amsterdam, so it's a lot. It's not easy. But we try to catch up with life,
Allah, I mean, nice to have you from the Netherlands all the way. Thank you very much. Actually, why don't I stay in the Netherlands and go to Sheikh Nasakab also to join us. Sheikh Nasakab, Sebo Omuwulide, you've just heard from Aisha there. So lonely, and yet you are the community leader there. You are pulling them. I think you should be bringing them all together so that then at least they shouldn't be feeling lonely. Sheikh Nasakab, Salaam Alaikum. Is he there? He's still on mute. Oh, maybe at work. NK, are you at work, or are you able to probably just come in for a minute? Because I know Nilfa is at work, and NK, I don't know if you're already at work. Sheikh Nasakab, I don't know if you've disappeared there, but we are 32 minutes into the conversation. As far, we've just had a lot. We've heard from the Netherlands, we've heard from the United Kingdom. A lot of the concentration actually was in the United Kingdom. How is it in the United States, Hasfa? Hello, Hasfa, are you there? I'll go to Halima. Halima, Hasfa, I think, might be on her way, making her way back home. She was out in town. Halima, are you there? Hello, Halima. If you can unmute yourself, please. And the conversation, if you've just joined us, it's we are talking about loneliness. The program is Come, Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. We are live on 75 W Radio. We are live on Ummah Connected. And we are on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Zoom. Sharifa, I come to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sharifa.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much for joining the conversation. I'm sure you've been in the background there listening into the loneliness topic. Yes, have you been lonely at some point?
Yes. This country is so lonely. Yeah, it's quite different from Uganda, really. So that, to be honest with you, when I got so lonely, I think it was a blessing in disguise, Kassim. That is when I learned how to read the Quran.
What happened to that loneliness? Paint the picture for that loneliness for us.
How should I explain it? Because before I came to this country, I used to meet with friends. We had like Kwanjula. You could have like parties on Saturday. You're meeting so and all that. So when I moved to this country, I know I came to London, true, but the people were too busy for even acknowledge that I'm even around. Let me say it like that. And the system was so different. You have to work night shift, the shift, things are upside down. It's a different lifestyle from here and back home. So I had to think of a solution, and I was so poor at my dini as well. Well, not so poor, but I was really lacking. So that is when I decided, you know what, I think it's time for me to read the Quran, learn this book, start attending Garusu's online, the Zoom and all those classes. I think that is how I started reducing on my loneliness. And
was that around COVID then? Because for some reason around COVID, that's
that 2020, 2021, that is when I started reading the Quran. I got a mualim to teach me and all that. Then I started the Zoom, Darusus. I started asking people, how do you handle this? Then they started sending me the links and everything. I started joining. Yes, please.
But there are assumptions that sometimes that people won't be lonely when you're in Uganda because like you have lots of friends, you have lots of events. But there might be probably loneliness happening in Uganda. What sort of shape or form would it take? Especially when you've lived abroad, you come back and while you have people around you, you realize sometimes there is a bit of loneliness, or that doesn't happen at all.
So what happens when now you return to Uganda and you've been here for some time, let's say 5 years, it's different. You just can't fit into their system anymore. Honestly, even when they are talking, you try like, right.
Yes.
You try and catch up with a conversation, but you feel like there's something lacking. The way they think, the way they analyze things is different.
Don't they think that you're pretending?
Of course, bakugamba weekoza alabika yatuuka kati nno laabwe yeeraga naye nga deep down, honestly, you're lost. I recently had my sister. She returned back home after 5 years. She lives in Canada. She sent me a message. She told me, Sharifa, I'm feeling lost. I am just not fitting in. Just after 5 years, I told her, you see, I told you. Then you'll go back home. You'll just not fit in. She has so many friends because Hawa has so many friends, even more than me. But somehow she's like, I think I'm not fitting in a bit. I just don't understand what happens, really. When you leave home, it becomes different when you come to this country. When you go back home, it's a different setting. So it's never a win-win situation.
What do we do? It looks like there's no winning then. Should we just stick home and die poor?
I think we just have to accept what we have, really, what is on the table, instead of putting it on our heads that it's going to stress me or everything. Just accept what you have at the moment, move on with it, and carry on with life, because that is life anyway. You're not going to change it. You decided to leave Uganda to come for the white man's land, maybe to get something better, like we say in quotes. So accept that you came here. Just live by.
Sharifa, it looks like there is no running away from loneliness, because according to Catherine in the chat room, she says, in Uganda, I choose to be alone. In UK, loneliness chooses me. So both ways, you're still lonely.
There's no win-win. You're just there, really.
All right. Thank you very much, Sharifa. Thanks very much for the contribution. 37 minutes past 9 o'clock, 23 minutes to the end of the program. And it's quite interesting to hear the kind of conversations that we are having. Life is what you make it, and that's from Umma Connected. Why don't we hear from you, Umma Connected? I'd like to hear your own take about loneliness. Please, go ahead. Is that Usama or Asfa? Usama, are you there? Or is it Hassan? There's too much silence, Jameni. Umma Connected there. Is it Usama? Is it Zaid? Is it Ustad Zaid? Are you there? Is that Hafsa? Hello, Hasfa. I can hardly hear you. Your mic is low. Oh, Ustad Zaid, go ahead. Go ahead. We would like to hear your loneliness. Life is what you make it, but sometimes the loneliness actually is not bought. We've just been painting a picture of the asylum process here. When you come and you start that asylum process where loneliness simply buys into you. Or our children in those first days when we take them to schools, introducing them into those schools, if they are not good at quickly adopting chances are, they might actually struggle. I remember my kids were the first Black kids in an entire school. And oh my God, there are times when you almost wish you could sort of hear from them, just know what was going through their minds at that particular moment in time. Of course, they grow, and as they grow, sometimes, of course, they forget. The memories wouldn't be as vivid as they would have been. Yes, Uma Connected, go ahead, please.
Sirina chakugamba keke the loneliness.
Toina loneliness, have you not had a situation where you faced loneliness?
I can't be lonely. No. I refuse to be lonely.
So by refusing, what do you do about it?
I have so many friends to share my life with.
Yes.
My family is too big. I'm always with my people. That's why I can't.
Always surrounded.
That's why I can't even go outside London. No. That's the number one reason why I love London. I can't leave London. Go live it.
We closed our eyes and came to be. We did an Ibrahim. We did an Ibrahim and came to Newcastle, and you see what Newcastle has become now. You are the only one who hasn't come yet.
I've been there. But remember,
like you've been. What am I even saying? All right. Well, you can stay in your London. You start saying.
KK, I love my community. I love people. I'm just like you, but I think I'm just like my grandfather or my father. I'm a people's person. Even if I was to go to, for example, I lived in Hatfield between 2003 to 2008. But every weekend, every Friday, I looked forward to Fridays. Every Friday, I could drive from Hatfield to London, stay with my family, with my friends, till Sunday midnight. Going back to Hatfield was like going to a boarding school. You know what I mean? I had friends in Hatfield because I was working in Hatfield. I had friends in Hatfield. We used to play football and all sorts. But I used to miss my family and my Ugandan friends so much. So every week I had to come to London, be with them for 3 days, for those 2-3 days, then go back for work.
So whatever you would have fueled up over the weekend would help you to run. It would be enough fuel to keep you alive until the weekend when you come back.
Until the weekend, even my friends in Hatfield. But when I miss them now, I miss them because I take long to see them. Hatfield is a very good place to live in, but I couldn't spend a week without coming to London to see Usama, see Abdullah, see Nilfa, see my family and friends. I just couldn't. So even now, I look forward to every day. Thornton Heath, Thornton Heath, yeah? It's like Kampala Road, yeah?
Yes.
It's like Kampala Road. You just stand by the streets and you're like, people go and go, hey, Mtoro, hey, then you work, you come back home, you never want to work. Loneliness, that can't be lonely, man. Fridays, for example, for us, we have our Ludo Club. We call it the Ludo Club. After Juma prayers, we go to someone's house. Yeah.
Yes.
Every weekend, we different houses. Twina Ludo Munenenyo. Yeah. So we eat our food. We play Matatu. We play Ludo till about 1 o'clock. Yeah. We don't drink. Yeah. So on Friday back at 1 o'clock to say car to Kolachi. We exchange ideas. Then after Vokoye, Saturday, you're always with your people. That loneliness, man. Don't tell me about loneliness, man. I can't. I always look for my people and you just have a laugh, man. Tofuna ideas za business, tofuna ubona ku shifty. No wavu kuyingira eyo loozo okola naye oli mwavu mu bwongo nesente oli mwavu tofuna ideas bakuba no. But the worst thing that I hate so much is people saying Bannayuganda bantama. Oh wait, that loneliness keve kuluma keve kumireyo gyoli genda Nigeria loneliness ekuttireyo. Bannayuganda bakutama Katonda be yakulondera okubeera nabo. God chose Uganda to be your country. He chose Abaganda abacholi abanankola abachi to be your people. And you come to England and you say Bannayuganda bantama just because they said something about you. Yeah, what you're going to you stay with your people. Abantu boogera ne baby ali mu lubuto bamogerako kati aleme kuzaalibwa mbolukuba bamogeddeko. Stay with your people, have fun until you die. Have fun.
Barakallahu fikum. Barakallahu fikum. But actually, that's one person who has not had any loneliness. Catherine, your hand was up. I unmuted you. Shezaid Sebo, Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very much for sharing that. At least that is one that stands out. And actually, I would struggle, I think, to be lonely as well, given how social and sociable I am. I would struggle to be lonely. Catherine, go ahead, please.
Keke, if you told me that you're lonely, I would say, no, you're lying, Keke. How can Keke be lonely? When you have us.
Catherine, go ahead.
Kassim.
Yes, please.
Topic about the balance. Era mwebaza nti azze. Topic netabera nti fefeka abali lonely.
Abali lonely. No, but you know, we already try to get the solutions, the sort of things that we can do to sort of deal with our loneliness. And we spoke about eating together as family. You know, we did the club yarudo. And all of that.
Kati fe abagenda mu that process of loneliness. Kati ngaze have ever gone into that process. But I'm also very reflective. I always look at myself and say, how do I resolve this? There must be a solution. Yes. If you realize you're lonely, don't dwell into the madness of depression. There are solutions out there. Yes. I went out to look for what interests me apart from my relationship. I got a tenant. So I have somebody I can bounce off.
Yes.
But I also found other interests apart from my
relationship. Are they Ugandan? Are they Ugandan as well?
No, they are Ghanaian.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but we get along. Everybody knows their boundaries. We respect each other. That's why she stayed with us for 12 years.
Wow.
Sometimes in a relationship, we focus on that relationship and forget your interest and yourself. I realized that, and I found that sometimes I just tell him I'm going for girls' night out.
Yeah.
He goes for men's night out. Everybody, we have a life together. We also have a life apart.
Agreed.
Yeah. Kakati, if you realize you can go into the madness of loneliness, find a solution.
Yeah.
If you don't find a solution, you're going into the madness of depression.
Thank you very much, Catherine. Amina, your hand is up.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Basically, but then to know the solutions.
Yes.
Nangambanti noba noku jokizamba nafa kwogera mbebaza nti loneliness erina categories. Sometimes they use quitting an individual over for a period of just a week. Never a very severe impact on them as individuals. Oli wabata losing their weight so much oba nafuna migraines oba chimu just a week oba eyinza okubeera long term. Naye kati ekirungi nti Uma Connected yazene solutions ezigamba nti kati ffe okusingira ddala aba foreigners nga Bannayuganda London eyinza okubanga ekifo ekiyinza otuyamba okuovercominga that okibeating engeri already gye tulinamu community nene.
Yes.
Kubanga cases ezisinga ze tutulaba ezikozinze loneliness yefe okuva mu London ne tugenda ewala ennyo. Kati gwe mashallah wagendera outside London ndoza wali already ng'olina family ng'oli married naye abamu bagenda bali single. Never hitting us so bad. And not staying within London is the solution of GBT.
That is subjective, Amina, because like we came to Newcastle, community atandika einabantu bare. Right now, people are running away from London and coming to Newcastle simply because the housing situation here. London, they had failed to get a house. They come to Newcastle within 2 months, they already have a house. And then the community has grown and expanded. But I think within communities where people are, what you manage to do around yourselves is actually what makes it. Manchester has a very big community, very big. Actually, it almost wants to match London in some little ways. Because there is a sense of community. I think wherever wherever you are, as long as you can get yourselves together, have something that binds you. Sorry for that interrupt. I felt I should just sort of highlight that because now we are expanding. London is so overcrowded. It's difficult to find housing in London. People are getting out, and as long as you don't go alone. The problem is if you go alone, then chances are by the time you get to drag somebody else along, it might take a bit of time.
Thank you so much for reminding me that. Yeah, kati ngabwe tulaba communities zaffe share. Kati oyinza okusanga kale kangezo oyinza okusanga bali abagendo ba mu club oba banywa omwenge. Kati bo babeera ne community yaabwe ebeere nene mu areas ez'enjawulo. Kati ate n'osanga bano abaagala buli ssaawa oba buli Sunday okwatendinga madrasa nabo ne babeera nga balivinga mu certain community. Kati ndosene wenga bw'oyogedde kyayogedde kikulu nnyo. Then kati abaasayiramu abafeesinga loneliness nze ngamba oba support groups, what do you think?
Yes.
Kubanga have ever taken part mu gundi voluntary organizations is supporting abali mu gundi mu asylum system. Naye ng'olaba sheikh ba ladies abo ne ba male we bajja nga time gye bamalaawo ne hope gye bajjawo awo izingako embeera eri ey'okuddayo n'abeera yekka n'abeera worried about the unknown of tomorrow.
Yes.
Bichi kati nze truly ngamba oba support groups kati relationships already sister waffe Catherine akyogedde hobbies ne groups n'emikwano really nga Sheikh bwagambye ustaz bwagambye obuterabira mikwano gyaffe kuba really bw'ofumbirwa oba woowasa tekitegeeza mbu losing emikwano. Carry on with your life olina obulamu bwo spending time ne banno outside your marriage.
That would take understanding on the part of the spouse. Kwangu oyinza okuwasa husband, oyinza okufumbirwa husband. Ngembuba atorako ttore kati nga buli kulowooza n'enswera ne bwekugwako bweti ng'azimba. So there has to be a sort of understanding to know that someone has particular interests, but interests that do not interfere with the relationship. Yes, Ustaz.
Kekenzo omukyalo wange amanyi nti nadivo agenda okunfumbirwa amanya nti nadivosinga dda ekintu kyonna ekinjawula ku mikwano gyange. Yeah, you get me? So nga Seka Ruhairi lumu bamubuuza ekibuuzo kya divorce n'agamba talaktu as'ilatu talaq, nadivosinga ebibuuzo bya talaka so temubimbuuza. Kati embeera yonna embeera yonna endeetera okwawukana oba okudistancing myself from emikwano gyange nagidivorcinga mu bulamu bwange paka lwe ndifa. Yeah, so embeera weŋŋamba nti embeera entwala Scotland nve mu London nedda nzira mu kazigo waakiri naye nga nsigadde London.
Kakati n'omukyala naye omuwa freedom ey'okulaba ku mikwano gye nga gwe bw'ogenda
nnyo. lwakuba nti agenda okwesanga nga nte emikwano gyange gyegifuuse egigi kubanga nze nyina mingi nnyo. But keke, we should love ourselves so much okubeera nga tetwetuusaako harm. Yeah? I love myself so much to be lonely. Kubanga loneliness can kill you. Loneliness ekulwaza. So nejja nyina okwejjanjaba clubs nyingi nnyo, ebintu bingi nnyo wano. For example, kekenze I'm too busy in mu community yange, mu Ugandan community nti mbyesalako bwesazi Monday to Sunday. Yeah. So emipiira wegiri ebintu byonna webiri abantu bakuyita buli kaseera mikwano si bya ddiini nti ogenda kusomesa wabula your friends abasiraamu n'abatali basiraamu. Yeah. So you can't obuli awo oli kubibyo olina mukola olusi bakulumisa bakujja ne kukubo emirundi mingi banzija kukonenga ya rabbi nga tekanawira ka target kange nengo omucho muguyidde wali bakuyita jangu gwe soke tukubo olwali omucho okitegera every day oboli awo
oli mukunumye enjala
kati for example keke mu Ramadan yenewedde omuntu wesalako bwesazi gye bakuyita buli kaseera. Era I look forward to Ramadan nnyo kubanga happy times oba ogamba nti bannange abantu singa babeerawo bati buli kaseera. I try to do like that every day. Kakati nekirala I suggest kyenyiza ogezaako fe bakasujja kye tukola for example in London nti every end of the month tubeerako ne get together as a family. Etoche emikumo gyaffe netulya kyonna ekiriwo naye nga tugenze wa someone a host nze yenna netulya kyonna ekiriwo netuhavinga fun. Omuntu mulwadde ayinza okugamba nti ndi mulwadde oba netugenda tumulabako then netugenda naye nga ekyo omuntu buli lwobeera ne banno ffe twalina club nga tugiyita Ashabul Kahf, the companions of the cave. Yeah, wagiwulirako naye nga Friday kati Ludo Club ya replacing naye nga tugamba Friday you look down to downloading byonna byoyiseemu mu week ebizibu
all the stresses of the week. Yes.
Okitegeera you laugh, you eat and laugh and discuss issues byonna ebibaddeyo through the week nga keke Nigeria wagamba
Leka nkwerekereze ndabye Imam Kasozi Ismail Chikomeko
keke kamalize na kano
Kaleti
Nigeria agamba my tiredness is tired because my tire is tired. Okukowa kwe kukowa obukowu. Yeah. So the nakowa loneliness nembere.
Barakallahu fikum. That's quite a submission. Imam Kasozi, salamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, ngachitaro nyosebo firwa kuwabadil.
Alhamdulillah. Yana kadimba mbamurumbe ndimukonge ndaka.
Yeah, Rabbil Alamin. We won't keep you very long, but there is this feeling and assumption that there is no loneliness in Uganda. Is that true?
I was just listening in, but it depends. You see, sometimes people create the loneliness for themselves. If you are not forthcoming, you can busy with the same thing. It can make you so lonely. Then while we are bantu, not very busy, you know, we don't go out. At least let us have a cup of coffee. Now, even that cup of coffee, you can organize it at your own home. No eat, abano, abasober and the babao. While you're in your loneliness one, ebintu bingi nnyo bikutuukirako. It is for a certain class. N'abantu abalala, they have it.
So, Imam, let me put it this way. Have you ever been lonely?
Yes, I can say yes.
How did that happen? Because I would be surprised to hear that.
And sometimes I want some friends of mine in Benga and Uganda go do so whatever. Name Banga so of accessing because body occupied with other things. By name it too much, it can happen. What saves some of us is because we get engaged in many other things. That sometimes that one you think about the nature of our society is so open, including Naban and Bibuga and Sakati. The nature of our society is so open. Every other time you can access another person, no, you get another. Name of favorite Jemuanga. Somebody is your neighbor. No, is of Mala. You just cross into each other and say hi, and that's all. Nega katu aniwafu omuntu ayimira bene mumbozi etamkwata ko okiwulidde kati culture kati oba bwakusanga nga alina kyayagala bwalibadde alowooza nti olina igule olina lyoteeka okumuwa bwakubuuza nti tolina mawulire bugaa sirina goes further and tell you muganda wano nti kale nnimba. Just tell me. In that sense, does not mean telling him a real lie. Yes.
Imam, thank you very much.
Bali program.
No, that's quite
program.
That's quite interesting.
Yes. That's why I think. But I know sometimes
Imam highlight you have ever been lonely, and I found that quite interesting. I would almost have put my hand out to be chopped off that you can never be lonely, considering how many people you associate with. And it is very valid.
My loneliness,
yes.
I may be, I want to talk to a certain group of people.
No, I took note of that. For me was a highlight tonight, Kabisa. Whether at the moment you need someone, you're unable to get them.
Yes, you see, mama wa change. I came ahead of them. Because I was organizing and ABC because I didn't so na chama nga sure ganti sure diri Imam Kasozi wali na tantanga u awuli yaga wa yenga chebele kanda ganti nyenzi na agenda late in the night na agenda because na if singana aliwo oba omuntu yali badaga nti katusigalewo tunyumyemu Professor Basimba naye najja ng'asubira wendi ng'asubira baani olumwe nasanga na baliwo then I will for natural that one I can come with loneliness in our sense.
That I have taken note, yeah.
It's same city feel tired, alone and frightened. We don't get much frightened here. ngamwe. Yes, because somehow we will find somebody to talk to, we will bump into somebody to talk to, and like that. Oba wano, kati ewamwe eyo, omuntu atya okukubira essimu ssaawa mukaaga ez'ekiro. Naye kati omuntu ayinza okukuba essaawa zino. Awulidde kati essaawa zino, as I'm talking to you, ndi wano ntuuse wano ngenda kutuuka ebulenga. Awulidde mbadde nva, kubanga ono taata wange yafudde abadde abeera wa mwannyina eno ebujuuko gye mba kati essaawa zino. And we had just gone there to nabo kubanga alettewo abaana bali mu famire bali basenga baabwe si ba kika kyabwe naye basenga baabwe kubanga banabbeere baani bataata waabwe okiwulidde fe abafamire yaabwe yennyini ab'ekika kyekimu they had not known that. Nze anko wange oyo mbadde maze 50 years nga simulaba. Naye bwe bagambye nti yafudde bonna eri mu kyalo bonna hope yonna bagamba nti eyo engeri gy'afidde ekampala ebyayima mu kasozi. And indeed nembiyingiramu ate nga nakola kiro nnyo. I have now think ndowooza ndi concludinze ebirala kuyitayo just to say naye njagala mwenna mwebale message zaffe ze mumpadde nezongera okutugumya oluganda olwetulina in the bigger forum. Era kyova bwe nfulumye wali bwenti immediate ne switchinga ono wedda ndi wali tufulumya nenga nti
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much.
Barakallahu fikum wa jazakumullahu khairan. I'll bring in, our time is nearly up. I'll just come to Shahida, Ismail Chikomeko, and then Farida Zabali. I can see your hand is up. Ismail Chikomeko, well, let me go to Shahida first and then Ismail. Shahida. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Hey, you sound so low. Your voice is very low. Hello? Hello, Shahida. Hello, Shahida. Subhanallah. Ismail Chikomeko. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Nga Shahida wajja.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Good to have you, Sebo. How are you?
Alhamdulillah.
Have you ever been lonely?
Yes, Sebo.
Yes, Sebo. Byava.
I am said about COVID wonna tuwadde lonely.
Yes.
Nga tosobola genda kukyalira munno oba omutwalidde bulwadde. Era nga ne akudduka n'agamba nti yawaayi oyo oba alabika aleese COVID.
Yes.
Bw'atoola abaana nalaba nesirabangako okuggala emizikiti. Nga n'omuntu okusinza bw'ati oga nti weeyongerayo bweyongezi.
Saba Mungu taituza mu mbeera efaanagana bwetyo. We just hope we never find ourselves in that sort of similar situation.
Yes, sir.
Yes. Shahid, I saw your message in the chat room. You sorry you can't talk. Noted. Thank you very much. Ismail, yes, sir. How do you manage to get around loneliness? How do you deal with it? How do you treat it?
Ebintu ebikutawaanya n'olaba ku kafirimu n'olaba ku osoma mu Qur'an ogenda okugivaako nga ate ofunye mu kirala oba ogenda kulaba ku mpiira ng'egyo n'olaba asati nga bwettunkana ginne waayo emu ogenda okulaba nga kikuvuddeko naye bw'obeerawo mu gundi awo oyinza okufuna ekintu n'ekikubiramu n'ekikyamu.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And finally, Farida Zabali, you just come in. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, Farida, your hand is up. And if you can unmute yourself, please. Farida, in the chat room, we are connected. However, COVID introduced us to many new friends. Yes, actually, via Zoom, and I can't say I felt lonely at all. We connected with many Ugandans worldwide. and we Ummah connected. It was actually a blessing in disguise. Farida, are you there? I'm trying to get you to unmute yourself, but looks like you haven't been able to. And it's already 9 minutes past 10 o'clock. Farida, are you there? All right, I'll just call off then. Thank you very, very much for those who have joined us pretty late.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
My last advice is abantu bewala okunyiga kuleta loneliness. Yeah. Okunyiga, wewala ebintu ebikunyiza. Try to avoid things that cause that anger and that unleash the worst in you. Bewale, try to avoid such stuff. Look for the best in people. Think good of people. Be happy. Be happy. Loneliness ojja kuba ogigobye. But the moment you start avoiding people, getting angry buli kaseera, kano kakunyiza kali kakunyiza, loneliness egenda newona bo olina abantu mu nnyumba nga muliko 10, ojja kuba lonely inside your heart. Obeere mu room y'omu nga abantu bali awo naye ng'oli lonely.
You become irritable. Yes.
Exactly. So avoid ebintu ebikunyiza. La taghdab. Tonyiga. Be happy.
Amen. James Brown now would take it from there. Don't worry, be happy. Thank you very much. It's been a very, very big pleasure having you tonight. We have been discussing loneliness. The program was Come, Let's Talk with Kassim Kayira. And we were live on 75 W Radio. We are live on Ummah Connected on Zoom, on YouTube, and on Facebook. It's been a pleasure. We've heard a lot about loneliness. 3.5 million in the United Kingdom have come out to testify that they feel lonely, not necessarily because they are alone, but the two situations are different. One is a state of mind, the other one is a physical state. And we have tried to look at ways of dealing with this situation, making new friends, trying to find new interests and hobbies, going out, probably getting out of our comfort zones, because what is taken as comfort actually, or comfortable, might actually be leading us into situations of loneliness. And whatever you do, stay with the program. Hope to see you next week, inshallah, on Tuesday, same time, 8 p.m., and where we shall have another very interesting topic. We thank you very much for your time. We don't take your presence for granted. Those who have joined very last minute, I'm sure you've definitely had a word or two that you take away with you. Sheikh Hussein Ali Bulafwa, I've seen you there. Thank you very much. You just caught the tail end of the program. Imam Kasozi, despite the fatigue and the journey, managing also to get in. As far in the United States, I didn't get to hear from you because Abe US Mukoranyo, that working too hard, I don't know whether that doesn't create loneliness. It would have been very interesting to hear from that, but I'm sure you are there and you are safe. Hope to see you next week, inshallah. I can only thank you very much and wish you a very good night. Ma'as salama. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.